Okay, let's dive right in. Today we're looking at a product that, it has been all over social media throughout 2025, the Tesla Pickleball Paddle.
Oh, yeah. Impossible to miss that one.
Exactly. And it seems to be selling like crazy, driven almost entirely by that brand name and all the slick advertising.
Mm.
So our mission for this deep dive is really to cut through the marketing, look at the source material, and figure out one thing. Does the on-court performance actually justify that premium price tag?
It's fascinating because the brand itself, it really translates directly into how you perceive the paddle physically.
So the first impression is good then.
Oh, it's strong, very strong. It has that signature minimalist look, the smooth carbon fiber finish. It all works.
And it feels solid.
It definitely feels premium in your hand. The edge guard seems robust, and the grip specifically, it's quite comfortable for medium or even long play. It seems designed to reduce hand fatigue.
But that's the thing, isn't it? It feels premium. But if we look past that slick outer layer, what do the raw specs actually tell us?
Exactly. And that's where things get a little more average.
Mm-hmm.
When you look beyond the finish, the sources we've reviewed say the weight distribution and balance are pretty standard.
And the core, the engine of the paddle, so to speak.
The core is a standard medium-density polypropylene honeycomb.
Which is, that's the same technology you'd find in a lot of high quality but entry to intermediate level paddles, right?
It is. There's nothing inherently wrong with it, but it's not the cutting-edge tech you might expect.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting for me. If the materials are pretty standard for the mid-range, how does that actually translate on the court when we compare it to established gear?
Well, if you're a casual or an intermediate player, it's a good paddle. It's totally functional.
Okay.
Your control is good, it tracks well on dinks and soft shots, and the face texture gives you some usable pop on your drives.
But I'm sensing a but here.
But when you really push it for power and for that high-level precision, that's where you start to see a significant drop-off.
So it's not as crisp.
The response just isn't as crisp, no. That standard core inherently limits the kind of energy return you need for a truly powerful swing in competitive play.
Because we're talking about a measurable reduction in energy transfer compared to its competition.
Precisely. And the sweet spot is noticeably less forgiving compared to those high-tier premium models.
The ones with thermoformed edges and high-density carbon faces.
Exactly. The gear designed purely for competitive power and spin. The actual playing experience here aligns much, much closer to solid, well-known paddles in the, say, $70 to $120 range.
Wow. Okay. That is a massive difference from the price point we're talking about. But, value isn't just about the initial performance. It's also about longevity.
Mm-hmm.
What are the sources saying about durability when players put real hours into it?
Yeah, and this brings up an important question about that whole cost-to-feature ratio. We're seeing user reports that under frequent hardcourt play, the edge guard has a tendency to loosen up.
Oh, that's not what you want to hear.
No. And the surface texture, that grit that's so critical for generating spin, it seems to scuff faster than anticipated.
So it just doesn't quite hold up to heavy, consistent use.
That lack of resilience really seems to confirm that while it's a real functional paddle, calling it premium performance gear is probably an overstatement of its technical capabilities. Any consumer who's really chasing a competitive edge will likely find better materials and better value in other paddles.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, trying to make an informed choice? We should be really clear here. This deep dive is educational commentary. We're focused on analyzing marketing claims and technical specs. This is not advice on whether to purchase or to avoid any specific product.
Right. For consumers, I think the critical takeaway is the difference between purchasing a desired brand identity.
Which this paddle delivers beautifully.
Absolutely. But it's that versus purchasing proven top-tier performance. And the material science here suggests it falls a bit short on the latter.
And that leaves us with a final thought for you to chew on. Think about how often a powerful brand name in any category, sports equipment, tech, whatever, causes us to expect functional superiority right out of the box.
It's a powerful effect.
It is, even when the underlying engineering or the materials are pretty common. So is the true game changer here the paddle itself, or is it the marketing story behind it?